It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today
with your hosts, Dawn Spiegelberg and Wendy R. Wolf.
Hello and welcome to the Live by Heart Today show number 26. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, posture therapist and coherence coach. Continuing our show's relationship focus, today's theme is taking the stage. With me for today's Heart to Heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, Transformation Facilitator. Hi, Wendy.
Hey, Dawn. I'm very excited about the subject, first of all, today. Taking the stage, I believe, is really relevant to many of us. Are we really willing to be seen, heard, known, to make the difference we're here to make? This is the kind of thing that changes our world. And Susan DuMett is back with us from our last show, number 25. I hope you go back and listen to it. There's so much great information about who she is, what she does, how she got here. And she is a body, mind, spirit integration specialist. And I've known Susan for about a decade, and I'm very grateful to call her my friend.
I'm excited to have Susan back with us. Hi, Susan. Thank you so much for being with us again today.
Oh, nice to see you both again. Thank you for having me.
I love the name of your website, auroramindsandenergy.com. Of course, Aurora is French for morning, which is my name. Isn't that beautiful? How did you choose that particular name? What's the significance of Aurora for you?
It is illumination in darkness. It is bringing light to darkness while honoring both. And I think that is really important for our theme today, taking the stage, and also in owning your voice. We are all sorts of things make us up. And, you know, the stuff that's hard and intense, along with the stuff that is delightful and joyful. And the integration and the honoring of both of those things within ourself helps come to that greater alignment with who we are, and helps us have more freedom in using the voice. So our theme last week, or when we met before, was really about unleashing the voice. And often unleashing starts with some of the hard stuff, the stuff that's been down there and packed away and hidden away in the cracks and crevices of places. And you can use your voice to help open up those places and release that stuff. And in the release, you are honoring it. There's a lot of talk of spiritual bypassing, or people who are light workers kind of not honoring our shadow side. And in Aurora Mind and Energy, and I know in the work that both of you do too, it's super important to honor both those things, the shadow and the light. Mm-hmm. And that's particularly true in the voice, because as you step up and into the knowingness of yourself, your ability to not just sing or sound, but speak the truth of your shadow, speak the truth of your joy, in equal measure becomes very important.
That's so powerful. You mentioned releasing and honoring some of the things that keep us stuck, understanding that we do have sticky places, that we do have places that are uncomfortable. And I just want to share with everyone this important truth that comes from science. So when Susan talks about using voice, it's vibration, using sound. And as people know, that scientists study sound, study vibration, and atoms all have a particular vibration. And the vibration is dictated in part by the particles, the electrons and the neutrons and protons within it. And the difference between one particle, one atom, and another atom has to do with a shift in vibration. And when there's a shift in vibration, it changes the physical matter that makes up the atom. So when you talk about recognizing a stuck pattern and adding a vibration to it, you're creating something new, you're transforming it. And that's beautifully demonstrated by scientists. And I think often they don't know what they're looking at. And we as human beings don't understand the power of recognizing how science attributes certain things to how we ourselves can heal, how we can choose to live by heart. So that was beautiful. Using sound, using our voice to transform us is just incredible. Do you have a recommendation? Do you have like a little mini step one that people can take away from today's show and begin the process for using their voice?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. I mean, part of it is allowing yourself to be present with what you actually feel.
Mm,
So many people I work with know that something is off. They're stuck in a pattern or a habit, but they don't know much more than that. And when I ask the question, like, how does it feel? They don't even know. They don't know the words. So that's where sound can be helpful. Like, where I might ask, where do you feel it in your body? And they might say, oh, it's in my lower belly, or it's in my core, or it's in my lower back. What does that sound like? What's the sound that wants to come out? And that can be a great way to sort of actually start the conversation. Start the conversation here, but start the conversation with your body and your mind and your spirit. Beyond that, I'm also a writer, and I've had a career in writing and writing for other people. But writing for yourself is a really great exercise. There's journaling for sure, but there's also asking questions in writing, asking questions of yourself and waiting for the response. What does your body have to say to it? What does your gut have to say about it? And doing so without judgment, just letting it be free flowing. Whatever comes. It doesn't even have to make sense, because we're having a different kind of conversation. It's not necessarily logical. And we get to allow that, the illogicalness of it, because there is an inner logic that our body and our mind and our spirit understands. I guess, is that what you're asking? I mean, I can certainly give some other kinds of exercises that are helpful to people, but
yeah, that's beautiful. So let me just recap. The
mhm,
first one, the first step you said is to be present to what is.
mhm,
And it sounds like you're recognizing that moment of recognition where, oh, I'm not feeling so great. And that feeling is in my shoulder.
mhm.
Or so you're just being present to what is and allowing it to be there. Is that true? That's step one.
Yeah, and I think it's important because I can run around and know that I've got shoulder tension, or that I feel like the weight of the world is on my back, but I'm still doing the thing. I'm still doing the thoughts and the behaviors and the activity. There's a difference between that and just kind of settling in, and then to your words, allowing it to be there. We
Mm,
get an entirely different perspective when we allow ourselves to stop and let whatever it is be present. Now, this is challenging because it can be very uncomfortable, right?
very.
Very uncomfortable. But as you know, in your work, it is through that the change happens. Once we can become present to it and get a little bit better picture of it, then we can know what to do. And so in my work with people, even though a lot of it has to do with voice, through hypnosis and through energy, I liken it to you and I are going to put on our headlamps and we're going down into the depths of your shoulder. We're going down into that feeling in your lower belly that you cannot define or explain. And we're going to look at it. We're going to look at it from a different perspective, from a different vibrational state that you can get in through meditation, hypnosis. And out of that, we can learn so much. And then the voice can come in and we can even hone the voice in alignment with that to disrupt it, whatever is needed to disrupt it, to expel it, to shift it, to change it. Now, there are other practices that I bring into play, but that's kind of a key component because in the voice, that is your unique, that's a unique thing about you that, as I spoke about in the previous episode, entwines the body, the mind, and the spirit. It's very physical to use your voice, and it is an honoring of your feelings and your beliefs. And in that process, it moves and shifts and transcends into something else through disruption, through validation, and then expansion or growth. So, does
Beautiful.
that help? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great explanation for step one.
Mm-hmm.
And then your step two was ask a question.
Mm-hmm. Asking a question, because we get so caught up in what we think we know. We've learned, A happens, then B, and so the logical outcome is C. But in the body, particularly when we're dealing with things that are past, we're trying to operate in present time, but many things from the past are shaping what we do. We have to get to the real root of it. And that means stepping beyond our beliefs, stepping beyond the logical questions, and to, back again, what truly is, what just is. And so again, you and I are going in, we've got our headlamps on, and we go deep down in, and we actually ask the body or ask the spirit, ask the question, what do you need? What's going on here, with objective, neutral listening, meaning no judgment, right? Really, what is truly needed here? What is truly needed here? It's not another, let's put another patch on it, right? Let's build up another wall here. It's often something like the need to feel safe, or the need for the grieving child to be tended to, like these deep down things that we can't put a name on. And often the work takes us to spaces and places that we've forgotten about, or we didn't fully, we just haven't fully honored. So often in the work, people are like, wow, I'm surprised that came up again. I thought I looked at that, but we look at it in a different way. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes perfect sense. And it brings you back to step number one. Mm-hmm. So when you're asking a question, what does this really need? What is this asking for to take the next step? That causes you to stop and listen. Mm-hmm. And in step number one, when you're being present, you're listening. And you made a very great point that if we're still living our lives, then we're just wanting it to be fixed so we can move on and do what needs to be done. We're just putting a Band-Aid on it. And that's not what step number one is. Step number one is asking the question in such a way that you wait and listen for the real answer. Because sometimes I don't want to know what the real answer is, because that hurts, right? It brings up the reason and the cause of why it's there to begin with.
Yeah. And it hurts, and we have a lot of fear around it because
Mm.
we think it's going to hurt, or we don't want to have to revisit it. And then that fear keeps us from getting on the stage, right? Whether it's in this getting on the stage of really actively tending to what's needed, or getting on the stage and being able to speak honestly with someone about a thing, or getting on the stage and speaking or singing, whatever it is. Stage fright isn't just for the theater or the performance hall. Stage fright is really something we experience when we're at that threshold of crossing from hidden to exposed, crossing from unknown to known. Um, so
It's
I
all
help
about
people,
relationship.
it's about relationship, and I help people kind of step through that stage fright, if you will.
That's beautiful. I never thought about stage fright as being something that prevents me from developing my relationship with myself, but I can see how that's totally true.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, some people allow stage fright is so intense that they never get on the stage, and that's true for performers and right. Some people just perform or record and never get on a stage, and that's absolutely fine. But often people realize that when they step through that, and even if it's something that happens over time, they still feel the anxiety. Once they get on and they unleash, then they're fine, because they're
Mm.
in that present moment and that pure expression,
When he
whatever it
calls them
is.
paper tigers, they realize that
Papers.
it's just a paper tiger. But I can see how the stage is my conversation with my husband. The
Mm,
stage is my interactions with my children. It's not necessarily with a crowd of people I don't know. And
yeah,
that can be even a much more difficult stage because I know this person. Because
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And as a performer, it's far easier for me to sing in front of a huge group of people than it would be to sing like in a private sort of concert or something. I mean, I can do it pretty easily now, but there's a huge difference. That level of intimacy goes back to the story of when I couldn't sing without bursting into tears in front of people, because your awareness of people witnessing you,
mm,
and the awareness that this unbridled, unfiltered voice coming out of you, right? Once it's out, it's out. It's out. And getting to a place where you're actually okay with that. You are okay with that.
Mhm. It's a,
And go
it's
ahead.
a huge thing, Susan. Your share about that reminded me of a similar situation I had, where I was running a voice own your voice retreat in New York State with a voice friend of mine, voice teacher, and he ran us through a similar exercise. And I had been teaching for years. It was only like 3 years ago. I'd been, doing my thing for years. I'm running this thing. And he had me be one of the participants. And I was I was completely weeping. I was completely, whole levels of stuff came off, because he had us, the circle around us, he had us look in each person eye while we were singing, and then the next person, and touching, and there's all this intimacy, and I was just being seen and known and heard and
mm,
mattering in ways that were very, very healing, because in my youth that was not present.
Right.
And so I just want to encourage people, we can do this. We can just hang out with a few friends and actually practice gazing. We can practice singing. We can practice being touched. We can practice, to build these muscles that it takes to get from here to there. So I just wanted to say that what you're talking about is very relevant, and a lot of it is unconscious. We go through layers, as you were saying, where we get freer.
Absolutely. And I think what you spoke to of building that muscle with people we feel comfortable with and safe with, especially now, is so important. I mean, because there's a lot of, well, there's just a lot of combativeness
Mhm.
around things, and a lot of people using their voice to say a bunch of stuff, and not a lot of real deep listening to understand, deep listening to, you don't have to agree with people. I'm not saying that. And you can
Mhm.
be very firm in what you want and what you believe. But without the part of being able to listen and understand where that other voice, someone else's voice, is coming from,
Mhm.
it makes it hard to find a resolution or a solution to things. It makes it
Mhm.
hard to get that integration and unification as a community, as a culture.
Mhm. Yeah, and you know what I found is that in in these conversations, what I found is that there's so much to agree about. There's
Yeah.
so many seeds of, we're just humans. We want to be safe and for others to be safe. We want to be loved and we want to be seen. Right? Like there's so much to agree upon, but there's so much focus in our culture right now on what we don't agree on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I've seen, especially like in the mystic group that I run, it's just like there's so many people who want to pick things apart instead of be like, oh yeah, I see what you mean there. It's
And
amazing.
I think that's really important witnessing there, because it goes back. I kind of view it as, this is the phase of disruption. We talked about sort of a development, a movement through. Things need to be disrupted, picking things apart, pointing out what's not working. The trick is not getting stuck there. Not getting stuck there, and not allowing our focus on that to drive what we do moving forward. And I'll just speak for myself. I mean, there was a long time, well, a relative amount of time, where I was super focused on the trauma that I experienced and the experience of the trauma. And I needed to do that to validate the shadow and the light. We talked about that with Aurora Mind and Energy. I needed to do that. Had I stayed there much longer, it would not have been serving me at all.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you have to honor it so you can fully honor it. And you can't ignore that part. You have to disrupt it. But then allowing yourself the full range of potential and possibility, the full
Mm,
range.
Yes, and I
And
believe a lot of people focus all on the light or all on the darkness, all on
yeah,
what they like or they don't like, or what's right or what's wrong, instead of the full range, what's possible, and then we choose
yeah,
where can we go.
absolutely. Where
Yeah.
can we go?
Mhm.
Hmm.
beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's take a short break.
Okay.
And thank you to our sponsor for making the show possible. Hooray!
Thank you for being with us today and our guest, Susan DuMett. We're discussing our voice, and it's an expression that allows us to keep moving forward and living, honoring both the shadow and the light in the full range of expression and discovering what's possible.
I believe that we all our voices are so needed. I mean, now, but we're here for a reason. Every one of us has unique something to bring. And so when we were talking about taking the stage, I was seeing a picture I see so often, which is we're in this great orchestra, but we each have our own instrument. And are we willing to come on? And are we willing to play as part of the group? And so I just wanted to see what you guys wanted to say about that.
Yeah.
I love the idea of an orchestra because every instrument is needed and the instruments are different. So you don't play a trumpet the same way you play a violin, and the quality of the sound is different depending on the instrument. So when we look at each other, we often don't get the point of honoring another individual because they're a different instrument.
Yeah.
You know, I'll look at the trumpet and say, oh, it's so bright and shiny and it's so capable of blah, 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 blah. But I don't look at my own self necessarily and see the qualities that I bring too. So I think with our steps, step one, being present to what is and allowing myself and other people to be their unique instrument. That's so powerful, Susan. Thank you for that tip.
Right. And, there are different ways of bringing forth, right? If I'm playing an instrument, I have to be full on in what I can do. But I also am mindful of the way my voice or my sound signature blends and moves with the other voices. And at some point, I might have a solo, or the group of instruments that I am with might have a need, or a part of the music might require us to become more in the forefront. But it's this balance between honoring your voice, honoring what is true for you, and honoring the sounds and voices around you. And I think what you spoke to, understanding that just because you have a different voice or a different belief or sound signature doesn't mean that both our voices aren't needed, right? In the context of the life orchestra. And Wendy, you said all of our voices are needed right now. And it's true, they are. Our voices, the sound, but I think more importantly, the presence of who we are behind or holding those voices. And so that goes back to sort of the beginning of the story where we were way back in the other episode of integrating, unifying all the parts and pieces of yourself. All of those things are required, and they work together in owning your voice in a clear and unique way.
That uniquely no one else can do.
No one else can do it.
And I love your focus, Susan, on the integration. And of course, that comes from noticing the fragmentation that has happened and being willing to own ourselves back. And also, just speaking right out about body, mind, spirit integration, how important that is. Like, so many want to just focus on, just do it in the body, or just think about it, or just go and do deep energy work or deep psychological, whatever. And it's like, I've found in my work that, because that's what I want to do. I want to go deep right into this stuff, but I found it so important to be bringing all of this together and to be practicing those muscles of showing up in body, mind, and spirit, and to heal whatever needs to happen, and to allow the physical things to help us change, like showing up to sing, or the mental things to help us change, learning new things like we're doing right now, or the emotional or energetic things to allow everybody to come to the party in us and around us. So helpful. So thanks for focusing on that, Susan.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Wendy, I think what you were making a point of is the opposite of something we discussed in last week's show. Susan, you mentioned matching to decrease the disruption.
Yeah.
So rather than holding your own voice, you were trying to match what was outside of you in order to prevent more disruption, prevent attention toward you.
Yes.
And Wendy, when you talk about the orchestra, and Susan, the variance that happens with instruments, but them all working together, in that moment, we're matching to increase the resonance. And that's so different. That's a different picture than decreasing disruption.
Right.
Matching to resonate allows you to develop. And Wendy, you talk about staying in your own lane and keeping your eyes on your own paper. That is allowing us to all work together with our voices and to resonate in harmony and allow us the space to be different and honor those differences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, harmony is all about staying in your own lane, which is kind of hilarious.
Right?
Right? Isn't that true, Susan? Like you have to be singing your particular thing that harmonizes with somebody else's thing. Isn't that how it goes?
Yeah, you have to stay in your own lane, but you have to have this awareness of what's going on around, and work with the other voices and instruments. And I think taking that just a little into a different tack, or the same tack, but a little bit farther, is the more you do that, the less concerned you are about other people's voices. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, the more you own your voice, the less you're concerned about what other people think, what their beliefs are, that they may disagree with you and, try and throw a bunch of energy at you or yell at you or say you're wrong or bad or whatever. The more you stay in your own lane in this level of conscious awareness, in this path of integration, the less those things come to matter. And the more you just actualize, your own true power and potential, and the potential of harmonizing with others.
Yes, you're describing freedom. And I have a great example of this. So my mother has been playing the piano for years and years, since she was 3 years old, and she plays in church. And she knows the music so well, better than anyone else. It's incredible. And there would be singers who would get up in front of church and sing. And because she knows the music so well, if one of the singers didn't go directly to the chorus, but they went to a refrain instead, she could follow them, and they were free to express themselves however they felt. But because she kept her eyes on her own page and she knew what her job was so well, she just kept playing as if that's the way they practiced it. But I had been listening to them practice for so long. I knew when a singer was going off and ad-libbing, and it was as if it was planned. It's just amazing, And that's freedom for her and freedom for the singer too.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I've done in my own singing career is a lot of improvisation with other musicians, where you have to be full on in what you're doing, but you have to be listening. And then you kind of find that synchronous harmonizing place where you are actually moving with each other, even though you've never played with each other before. I've done this many times where I'll perform with someone I've never practiced or performed with, but we both have this background in owning our instrument and listening and improvisation, and it works out because we tune into that, going back to what you said, Dawn, the resonance and the vibration, right? So super cool.
This is beautiful. Just a quick recap. Sound helps keep you in your own lane. Sound allows you to be present to the entire range of both light and shadow, and not run away or not avoid it. And sound is the liaison between mind and body, mind and spirit, spirit and body. Yeah, that's beautiful.
That was a great summary of things, Dawn. Thank you.
Wendy,
awesome.
do you have a final?
Yeah, all this in service of staying in relationship with ourselves, which helps us stay in relationship with each other, which helps us make such a beautiful music in our world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Wendy. And thank you, Susan. Thank you to everyone who's listening and with us today. And we'd like to hear from you. If our conversation spoke to your heart, please tell us by leaving a comment. For more information about how you can continue to live by heart, please go to livebyhearttoday.com. Also, like and follow the page and turn on notifications. Our program airs every Thursday at 4:44 Pacific time. From our heart to yours, we're creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by heart today!
Thank you for watching. Join us every Thursday at 4:44 p.m. for another episode of Live by Heart.
Today!
Let's give a shout out to our sponsor. Thank you, We Are Historically, for making this show possible.
Have a happy horse.
Beautiful.
Great job. Great job.
Nice
Thank you so
job,
much,
everyone.
Susan.
Oh my gosh, that
Really
was so
appreciate
fun. And you ladies are really great facilitators, asking great questions. And so thank you. It was really, really good. And
Yeah, good.
both have a really, really great knack of summarizing and then moving to the next topic, if you will, or the next part. So,
Mhm.
yay.
I think we mean for this to be just truly conversational.
Yeah.
So it's great. And Dawn, you're so good at the intros and outros. Thanks for doing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.